Hey guys, it's Mr. D. I am going to review the excretory system with you guys. Um, Hopefully this works. Hopefully this is a little better than what we've been doing. All right, so the excretory system, right? That's anything where you're excreting anything from your body. So that could be the pores in your skin. But what we're going to really focus in on is is your kidneys, right? Because your kidneys are one of the major filters for your body, and it is a system that helps you excrete lots of toxins. All right, so what we're looking at here is we have our kidneys, we have these ureters that go down to a bladder, right? And then the urethra right at the end. Um, and that's all we're really looking at as far as the anatomy of it. All right, so the functions of the excretory system. Maintain the body's internal environment, right? Homeostasis. So homeostasis is that stable internal environment, right? So we need to, what this system is doing is regulating your water volume, right? Your total solute concentration in water. So that's the idea of if you eat lots of salty foods, right, your body's going to retain more water. If you don't have a lot of salt, right, in your system, your body's going to excrete more water, right? So when I say salt, I'm really just talking about ion concentrations, right? So we're regulating ion concentrations in this extracellular fluid. Extracellular fluid is that fluid that surrounds all of the cells of your body, right? That's going to be in that ground tissue area of the connective tissue, if you remember. So it's also going to control your pH. You're going to excrete your metabolic wastes, right? So that's all the wastes from your mitochondria doing cellular respiration, right? There's going to be metabolic wastes from that. Any kind of toxins that your body has brought in, any kind of drugs, right? That's why we tell people, not to take too many, things that seem harmless, like Advil or Tylenol, right? One thing you never mix are two NSAIDs. NSAIDs would be Advil is an NSAID, naproxen is an NSAID, right? So you never mix NSAIDs because they're very damaging to your kidneys, right? And taking any kind of ibuprofen or anything like that over a long period of time is not good for your kidneys either, right? Because all of that stuff is going to be getting filtered out through your kidneys. Again, also your excretory system is produces erythropoietin. Erythropoietin is what regulates your red blood cell production, and also it helps in activating vitamin D. All right, so we got 4 steps to this process. We have filtration, right? So we'll get there. We'll see pictures in a few minutes, but filtration, you have all of the fluids of your body are getting filtered, right? And then this filtration happens, and then after the filtration, there's this reabsorption. So this is where your kidneys decide, okay, we're going to hold on to this, we're going to get rid of that, right? So that's the idea of reabsorption. And then you have secretion, right? So that's anything else that needs to get out of your body and into that into those fluids that you're going to get rid of. And then excretion, that's when you finally get rid of that waste, right? So here's the again another picture of the anatomy here. One thing that we did not talk about in the last one was this renal vein and the renal artery, right? So the renal artery is bringing oxygen-rich blood to the kidneys, and the renal vein is actually bringing oxygen-poor blood away from the kidneys. Now, the other thing is happening here. So if the blood coming to the kidneys is coming from the renal artery, right, that blood that's traveling to the kidneys is also the blood that has all of the toxins in it that need to be filtered out in the kidneys, right? So this blood here that is low in oxygen is also much cleaner, right, and toxin free, right? So all of the toxins that came in through this renal artery along with the oxygenated blood, gets filtered out here, and then returns to the heart back through the renal vein. All right. So your kidneys, right? They're the main organ of the excretory system, right? And they're supplied by blood through the renal artery and drained by the renal vein, right? That's what we just said, right? Artery is bringing blood in, and the vein is taking blood away. Urine exits each kidney through a duct called the ureter, right? So your kidney, right, is going to excrete that urine into this tube that's called the ureter, right? And that tube leads all the way down to the bladder, which is right here. Excuse me, to the bladder, which is right here. I'm sorry about that yawn. All right, guys, sorry about that. Maybe you heard my dog barking in the background. I have to keep stopping this video for him because he's barking. All right, so the urinary bladder is this muscular sac, right? And it's really just a storage place for urine. It is expandable. If you guys remember the transitional epithelium that we only find in the lining of the urinary bladder, right? Which just allows it to expand. Then your urethra, right? That's a muscular tube that drains the urinary bladder, right? So that's this right here, right? So that's draining the urinary bladder. There are two sphincters. There's the internal urethral sphincter, which is involuntary smooth muscle at the bladder urethra junction, right? Then you have the external urethral sphincter, which is down here, right? That is voluntary skeletal muscle surrounding the urethra as it passes through the pelvic floor. So if you remember involuntary, right, you're not controlling it. Your body's controlling it on its own. Involuntary, you're controlling it. Luckily, we're able to control this, right? Otherwise, we'd just be peeing all over the place. All right, so this nephron is the functional unit of the vertebrate kidney, right? So of our kidneys, this is the unit that actually does all the work, right? So it consists of a single long tubule and a ball of capillaries called the glomerulus. Capillaries composed of fenestrated endothelium. Sorry guys, the dog was barking again. I had to put a stop on this. All right. So anyway, so this is where filtration happens. How this works is, let me see. Yeah. Well, we'll look at it a couple different times, right? But the inside the kidney, right? This is like a chunk of the kidney, right? You're looking at this this yellowish set of tubes, right? And that is called the nephron, right? So if you see here, remember I said that artery, the blood from the artery comes in, right? So it's coming in here. In this little area here, there's this bundle of capillaries, right? Right here. It's called the glomerulus, right? So that bundle of capillaries is where the filtrate, so the red blood cells actually stay in the in this artery, but the all of the water and the filtrate and the solutes and things like that come out of the bloodstream here and go through this set of tubes, right? In this area down here is where that the choices are going to be made, right? Are we holding on to water? Are we getting rid of water? Are we keeping this glucose? Are we getting rid of this glucose, right? And this is also where toxins are actually going to be added to the urine. And then it goes through this distal tubule here to this, which is called the collection duct, all right? And that collection duct empties out into this area of the kidney called the renal pelvis, which then goes out to the ureter, okay? So the reason why these capillaries are surrounding this loop right here, right, is because anything that's being exchanged through this tube and these capillaries can be exchanged at this point as far as toxins or, you know, glucose or salt being put back into the bloodstream or water being put back into the bloodstream, right? So all of that is happening here, right? It's all that reabsorption going on, okay? All right, so we have this afferent arteriole and this efferent arteriole, right? So it's this arteriole, right, that is coming in, that is the afferent, right? It's coming in, right, all of the filtrate is coming out, right? The red blood cells are staying in there, and they are leaving through this efferent arteriole, right? And the site of exchange is happening in these capillaries, right? And yeah, like I just said, right, these nephrons are surrounded by these capillaries where all this exchange is happening, right? But you do have this big amount of filtrate that's coming out here, going through this tube, right? And then all of the decisions are being made in these tubules, all right? So here we go, how the kidney works. The renal artery brings blood to be filtered, right? We talked about that. Blood contains blood cells, salts, sugars, urea, and water, right? Salts, sugars, urea, and water leave and enter the cup structure of the nephron, right? So all the salts, urea, and water are being pulled out right here, right? And then the straight portion of the nephron intertwines with capillary. That's all this down here, right? All materials except urea and excess water diffuse back into the capillary, right? 99% of water goes back to the bloodstream, right? So, filtered blood leaves the kidney through the renal vein, right? So we said that, right, this is leaving the kidney, right, through this vein. Wastes are taken out of the, waste that were taken out of the blood stay in the nephron or carried out of the body, right? So we go from the nephron in the kidney to the ureter, to the urinary bladder, to the urethra, which leads to out of the body. There are some diseases that we can find out by analyzing urine for that disease, right? So normal urine contains water, urea, and trace minerals. Sugar in urine indicates diabetes. So this is always a gross thing when I like to talk about in class. But at one time, doctors would taste their patient's urine, and if it tasted sweet, they knew that that patient had diabetes. That was before we were able to test people's blood sugar. Protein in urine indicates that the kidneys are not working and the person or animal is very sick. Yeah, so if there's protein in the urine, that's not good at all. And that brings us to the end of this PowerPoint. So it's not a lot, right? We'll probably have a shorter quiz type assessment to go along with this, but there will be some work to go along with it as well. All right, and I'll be posting that on Google Classroom. All right, thanks. Oh, the other thing. I had students in my other classes do one-on-one sessions with me on Zoom to help out with their classes, and it really worked out well for them. So if any of you guys or a group of you guys ever want to do that, just let me know. All right, guys, stay safe.